Hey, morning everyone. We'll give 2 to 3 minutes for everyone to join. Then we'll start the O.12.0 release and demos. I'm super excited about that. One more minute before we start off. Right. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. All right, thanks everyone for joining today. So we are super excited about O.12.0 release. Lots of features coming in. We're going to go through all of main features, do the demos. So usually in OpenMetadata, we have almost monthly cadence. But for this release, we took extra month to build all these foundational pieces that we wanted to build from a long time, and they came out really well. Meanwhile, we did also do 5 minor releases from O.11 to O.11.5. And O.12 is the releases today. We're going to publish the band race by tomorrow, and all the artifacts will be available by around this time by tomorrow. So without further ado, so, at a high level, what are the features that we are shipping, right? Roles and policies, quality, quite a bit changed from what we used to have. And roles and policies are much more kind of foundationally built. We're going to go into more details in that. Notification alerts, a lot of community members asked a customization around notification alerts. We're going to demo that. And we're going to go deep dive into security and connectors that we are shipping in O.12 and all the nuts and bolts that are coming in. So let's start with roles and policies. So what we've done, so if someone can handle the admission of users, that'll be great. I'll continue on this one. So before we, in O.11, from the very beginning of OpenMetadata, we stressed on the fact that data should be owned by teams is specifically what to our liking, but it can be owned by teams or users of an organization. So data owned is data that is scared, right? So, but the teams are structured much more flatter. Let me quickly jump into what we had. Sorry. What we had before is, if you go to the point 11 or even point 10, whatnot, you have teams. Teams are kind of flatter, right? So you have at a one level, you have different teams that can be organized, and user can join one or two teams, and teams can own assets, something like this. Now with point 12, where we are heading is have much more hierarchical nature, much more closer to what the real world of team hierarchy looks like, right? So let me actually do the demo of that. So if you go to the point 12, now we have all new settings page in the teams. You can see the teams are organized under organization as the root level. And underneath that, you can actually create a nested hierarchical structure of the teams. Example could be a finance team. Sorry. Finance team can be organized into, as children team sales, and sales can have a multiple teams underneath it. So you can actually map how your organization looks like in your physical layout into OpenMetadata structure. The idea behind that is you can actually much more closely represent what your team hierarchy looks like and where the teams belong, and assign ownership accordingly. So in this new release, you can continue to create this hierarchy. For example, under sales, I can go and add a team. Say marketing. And then I can choose a team type. So for us, organization is the root of the team. And underneath that, you can have a business unit. Business unit can contain multiple departments, divisions, and groups. Group is our leaf node, or the team where the group can own the assets, data assets. So the benefit of this is, once we jump into roles and policies, is you can, at the organization level, at the root level, you can define rules and policies that should be inherited by all your teams underneath it. And you can set the rules at the top level itself and continue to kind of tighten those rules and policies per team, and also assign users to those teams as well. So that's kind of teams and how the hierarchy will look like going into point 12. So when you upgrade, all your teams that used to be in this fashion will automatically migrated into a much more streamlined way of underneath the organization. They're all of type group, but you can create multiple teams underneath it and add a business division and department, whatnot. So that's a hierarchy of team hierarchy that we shipped in point 12. Now going into roles and policies. So previously, we have in point 11, point and behind, a role has a policy. There used to be a one-to-one relation. A policy has multiple rules. The limitation with that is the rule is very simpler, in the sense that you can tell the rule to be, this is the operation, either you need to do allow or deny. So to quickly showcase what we used to have, in point 11, if you go to the roles, so roles are like this, data consumer, and each role has a single policy, and it can contain multiple rules. The rules are also fairly simple. You have certain operation that you can choose and just do allow or deny. We wanted to we received a lot of feedback from the community, and we wanted to make it much more organized, much more better accessible for different kind of use cases. So with this, we moved to this model where a user or team, just like before, has a role, can have multiple roles, and each role can contain multiple policies. And policies will have a rule, and rule are not just simple allow and deny. Now you have conditional rules and all that stuff, which we'll demo in a bit. But the benefit of this is you can actually group policies to contain multiple rules, and each of these policies can be reused into multiple roles. And you can assign these roles at the organization level, at your business unit level, at the department, or at the user level. That way you can create a good inheritance, good rules, good condition, good boundary conditions. And you can have a lot more flexibility in how you are creating the rules, which we'll show in a bit. So now let's start with the rules, right? So you've seen in point 11, which is, hey, here is my operation, here is allow or deny. Now rules are much more advanced in this case. Rules will contain resources. Resources could be an entity type. In this case, we are saying all resources, or you can choose, let's say, table, topic, dashboard, whatnot, different entities in OpenMetadata. What are the operations? Operations are much more nuanced. It's not just edit lineage, edit ownership. We have enumerated all the operation that is possible through the APIs, through the UI. You can also select all. And what is the effect? This is the allow or deny operations. And effect is, in this case, allow. And there's an optional condition you can pass in. In this case, it's is owner. So what is happening in this case here is, we are saying if a user is owner of an asset, they get all the operations by default, right? So this is the organization level policy, and we're creating a rule for that. These are how we are expressing. Now, at the organization policy level, you can also set a no owner rule, what we want to do. For all resources, a user can log in, and if the resource, for example, there's a table called dim address, and nobody is an owner. In those cases, anyone can log in and go to the dim address and edit the ownership of that, so that they can assign themselves or they can assign to the team. So these are kind of basic rules that we are getting in as the default policies and rules, so that everyone can have certain boundary conditions to start with. But you can play around with these rules and create your own and make it your own that fits to your organization. So before I go through all of this, I'll just do the quick demo. So going into the OpenMetadata point 12, you can go to the policies. And these are the default policies that we associate. And you can actually go to the teams. You can look at organization level. What are the policies that are there? This is the organization policy. Organization policy, just I showed you, you have a owner rule, no owner rule. You can continue to add more conditions here. Let me jump back to the data consumer policy. So data consumer policies, what we are saying is, let's go and edit this. So we are saying that if you're a data consumer, if you're a user who assigned a data consumer role, you can come here and do against all the resources. You can do edit description, edit tags, view all the information that is there. View test is another operation that we added. For example, let's say I want to make it more interesting, right? So I want to go and say that let's add a sample data rule. So OpenMetadata extract sample data so that data scientists can understand what's the data in your tables, topics, whatnot. So what I want to do is, on a resource call, in this case, I'm going to go and let's say topic. In this case, I want to select. Sorry, I'm going to do table. And an operation view sample data. And in this case, allow, if not is owner, and not match all tags. So what I'm trying to do here is, if a column or a table doesn't have any sensitive data, I want to give everyone access to sample data. But if it does have sensitive data, do not show it. So that is the rule I'm trying to create. So as you can see, the conditions that we are building here is based on a Perl expressive language. So it gives you a lot of flexibility here. So we are supporting in point 12 is owner, match all tags. We'll continue to evolve that, and you can add your own conditions based on certain operations. So the other important thing that you can see from here is,
I think from condition perspective, we support is owner as a function, no owner, match any tags, match all tags. We can continue to add, we can continue to add more functions there. And then also one quick thing, Harsha, here is we have three types of effect, right? Allow, deny, allow, and no condition matches, and so automatically nothing is allowed, so it is not allowed, right? So you can also change this and say, make it a much stronger, just keep here, make it much stronger, go to effect and turn it into deny, right? And then, you can actually say, if, deny for, match all tags, right? That you have. It's so whenever there is sensitive data, now, viewing the sample data is denied, right? Except for owner, you can, start building those kind of conditions.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ashley, for interrupting you.
Something like this.
Yeah. So for owner, everything is allowed.
Now going back to the slide. So, we demoed kind of what are the operations, right? So we had a limited set of operations. Now you can actually very tightly control what are the information that is editable by a role or a policy or a team whose that role and policy is associated with. So you get a lot of flexibility, and then on top of that with a condition. And a little bit about the policies. As you can see, policies are a container for the collection of rules, right? So you can add multiple rules inside a policy, and policies can also be directly assigned to the teams without the roles. So you have that flexibility as well. Then you can also have a role creation. Role can contain multiple policies. So rules are a building block for the policies. Policies can be used to create a role so that you can actually group a persona, like you have a data steward, for example, as a persona. You can create a data steward and say that, hey, data stewards can actually go and edit descriptions, add tags everywhere, because we trust them. They are the knowledge, they are the really experts in our data. So we'll assign a few users a data steward role, or a team a data steward role, right? So that's the power that will give you the roles. So we just demoed that. So before going further, so I will recommend you to go 2 weeks back. I'll leave a link in the once the recording is done. But Suresh went through a lot of technical details how the role roles and policies work internally. But to kind of summarize that, so how are we doing this, right? So we have subject context. Subject context is the person who's logged in, and not only that, the logged in user will get the teams hierarchy and the user roles. So that entirely contains a subject context. So the identity of the user and all the attribute that belongs to the user. Now, the next part is operation context. What are they trying to do? Are they trying to edit a description in a table? Are they trying to delete a team or whatnot, right? So that gives the operation context on what type of resources that they are acting upon and what operation, like editing description, adding a tag, whatnot. Finally, then there is a resource context. This is where the attribute mechanism comes into play, right? So as you can see in the recent demo that we did in the rule, we are saying match tags where PI is sensitive. So that what it's doing is taking the resource tags and resource ownership and a lot of metadata around resource and giving you a conditional evaluation there. So you're taking the logged in user context, you're taking the operation context around the resource, and then you're also taking the resource attributes, then evaluating the policy and saying if that user who logged in is allowed to do or not. So combination of this will give crazy flexibility on defining how your metadata should be handled, how your data in general should be handled, who can, associate, you can do a lot of interesting things like, domain-based or team-based boundary conditions that, for example, if you have a really sensitive data like finance, only people within the finance should be accessed, you can also define through the policy itself. So this by far the full-blown policy and rules and policy implementation so far, in any of the products. So we are extremely proud of the work that we have done. And this is like a first release of, the entire revamping, re-architecting. So it will be great for the community to kind of test drive it, give us a feedback. Definitely would love to know what are the conditions you would like to have by default and what are the policies that you would like to see by default. So, we are looking forward for the feedback. And hopefully this is something that, a lot of community is looking forward to as well. So that's the roles and policies. We all talked about that one. So the next feature is going to be data quality and profiler. I'm going to leave it to Teddy to do the demo.
Yep. Do you, yeah. Share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so in 0.12, we've made a lot of work to revamp data quality and the profiler. So we'll go over a few features that we've introduced, give a bit of context as well as to why those changes and the impact it has for users. And then we'll do a quick demo of all the things that we've implemented. So to give you a little bit of context, if you look at the ecosystem today, you can see that there is quite a fragmented ecosystem where you have siloed solutions answering specific needs when it comes to data catalog, profiling your data, or running data quality. And so that brings a lot of complexities for teams because you have to manage multiple tools, and you also have to work in integrating all of these tools together to provide a unified view to your team and to your business users. Another element that we often see in the ecosystem are tools that are mainly engineers focused on the engineers users, where it requires some technical knowledge when it comes to maintenance, deployment, and it creates a bit of complexity, and it leaves out business users. So it often requires writing code, filling out some YAML configuration file, etc. And what we are providing in OpenMetadata 0.12 is an integrated catalog profiler and data quality solution that not just take the engineer needs in mind, but also the business user needs in mind. In terms of features that we've introduced a time series API, where you now be able to see a time series view of your profile data, but also your test case results. We've split the profiler and the data quality workflow. So if you remember in point 11 and before, the profiler and the data quality were running together. Today, they are now split. So if you want to just run data quality, then you are able to do it. If you just want to run profiler, you're able to do it. And then you can, of course, still run both together into two separate workflows. When it comes to the data quality, we revamped the architecture. If you remember in previous versions, data qualities were linked to a specific table entity, meaning that when you created your data quality test, you had to create it at the table level, and that data quality was running on a schedule based solely on that table, and it was directly linked to that specific table. But what we see is needs for team to run data quality tests across different multiple entities, right? So you can have scenarios where you have multiple tables that exist in the staging area that you then use to model a specific table. And so in those scenarios, you may want to group multiple data quality tests across different table entities into one suite of tests. And so we created the test suite entity that will allow you to group data quality tests across different table entities and schedule all of those tests to run at a specific time, and allowing you to validate the quality of your data across different table entities. We've also introduced the new test definition API. Yeah, Arsha, did you want to add something or?
Yeah, just quick note on the test suite, right? So the idea behind the test suite is previously, as Teddy was saying, you create a test, it's part of running as one profiler workflow. So your flexibility of scheduling, test cases depends on the time of profiler workflow. But let's say you are a data scientist, you're building a dashboard and you want to kind of run tests, a suit up test every day at 8 a.m. before any executive comes in and looks at your dashboard at 9 a.m. You want to make sure the data that is being present in dashboard is accurate and high quality. Now with the test suite, you can actually associate tests across different tables, group them together in the test suite, and deploy the test suite as its own workflow and say that, hey, I want to run this test by 7 or 8 a.m. and I want to get notification everything looks good. So that's the kind of flexibility that we put together in O.12.0. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that precision. We've also introduced a new test definition API that will allow you to add custom test case definition, which will then be picked up by the UI and rendered on your specific table. So it gives you flexibility in terms of running and adding test cases. We've improved the UI, so we'll see throughout the demo the different improvements that we've done. And we've also now added a test case notification where you can create a webhook. So we have native webhook for Slack and Team, where you can create your webhook and have it trigger, send an alert to a specific channel when a test case fails, which allows you to communicate those test failures across your organization. And then the last point as well that we've added in O.12 is the integration with the DBT test. So if you are today ingesting DBT data in OpenMetadata, you'll be able to also add the test results of your DBT runs by simply adding the run results JSON file in the configuration of your table. All right, perfect. Now we'll go through, Arshad, we'll go through the demo. All right, so starting with the profiler improvement. So if we go to a specific service and to the ingestion tab, and we add a profiler ingestion, we will see a few improvements here. So as you may remember in previous version, we were filtering on FQN pattern. Now we have harmonized that configuration aspect with the service configuration where you can configure and filter for database schema and table. We've also added the possibility to set a profile sample at the workflow level. So we've heard from the community that people want to sample some data for very large tables. So setting a profile sample at this level will allow you to apply that profile sample to all the tables that are running for that specific workflow. And then the last element that we've added is the thread count. So you will now see a thread count parameter. We are in 0.12, we are using multi-threading to compute the metric, which significantly improve the speed of the workflow execution. And you are able to, of course, set a specific thread count number here. Setting it to 1 will, of course, just default to the current behavior and use only one thread. Once you've executed your profiler, you will see now a combined profiler and data tab in your table page. And in that profiler and data quality tab, you will see a new and improved UI. So we've revamped the presentation of the metrics. So as you can see right here, if you remember the way it was presented before, now it's much cleaner and much easier to read. So at the top, we show a summary of the table level metrics, and then we show specific metrics for specific columns. What we've added in point 12 is the ability to drill down within a specific column. So if I click on a specific column, so let's say address ID, I will now be able to view a time series of my metric and be able to understand the historic of my column, but also of my table. So we have different metrics that are shown here. And we, of course, have the ability to set a specific time range, right? So if I look at the last 7 days, then I have a greater view of how my table is evolving. Now, going back to the profiler and data quality view, if you click on the settings button at the top, you will be able to change the profile sample percentage specifically for that table. If you have set a profile sample at the workflow level, the profile sample set at the table level will override whatever is set at the workflow level. So you are able to set a global profile sample for your workflow, but then fine-tune specific table if you wish. You are also able to pass a sample query if you wish to have some more customized approach that will be used to then sample your data. You will now also see the exclude and include column. So you are able to exclude specific column from the profiler. We oftentimes see people who don't necessarily want to run the profiler on the ID column. So you're now able to do that. And if you wish to do the opposite, just include specific column, then you are able to do so using the include column, and then you can fine tune which metrics you want to compute for specific column. So all of those customizable options allows you to fine tune how you want to run the profiler, what type of metrics you want to see, but also optimize the execution of the profiler. So that's it for the profiler. Now, if we look at the revamp of the data quality, we are accessing it through the same tab, so the profiler and the data quality tab. To add a test, you basically have two options. So if you want to add a test at the table level, you will click the button on the upper right corner around the table summary. And then you are able to add column-specific tests by clicking on the action button right here. When you are going to create a data quality test, you will be first shown this view. So from here, you can do two things. You can either select an existing test suite, which will simply add whatever data quality test you are creating to that existing test suite, or you can create your own test suite, right? So if we create our new test suite, then, right? So clicking the next button will create the test suite. But at this point, it's important to understand that the test suite is created, but the workflow to execute the test suite is not. And so it's something important to remember. From there, you can select whatever test you want to execute. So in that case, we'll just do a simple table row count. Now that step will associate our test case to our test suite. From there, we are prompted with two choices. We can either view the test suite or we can add the ingestion workflow. Adding the ingestion workflow will allow you to schedule the execution of your test suite. And from there, it's very simple. You can simply pick a schedule time. So we have the same options that you may be familiar with when you are setting up a service workflow, ingestion workflow. And then from there, we can click submit. And then we now have our test suite. From there, what we can do multiple things, right? So from the landing page, we can view all of the test suite that we have, right? So if I click in a specific test suite, now we'll see all of the tests associated with that test suite, regardless of the table that specific test belongs to, right? So if I can have 10 different tables that have 10 different tests associated to one test suite. Accessing that test suite page will show me all of the test suite, all of the test cases associated to that test suite. From there, I can expand specific test cases, and then I can see how the execution of those tests has been doing for the past few days. So similar to the profiler, I can select a specific date range, and then I can see the evolution of my test cases. That's something that you may want to do is you, yeah. Do you want to add something, sir?
Yeah, so if you open that test case result, so the way visualization works is, in this case, we are running a test called column value max to be between, right? So what is the maximum value a column should have, and we're giving a range, the min value and max value. And we are expecting that all the column values to be landing between 50 to 100. So you can see in a couple of times, the range is exceeded the boundaries, right? We have 50 and 100 in the green box, but on September 3rd, we have really high value, and September 6th, you'll really have low value. So the visualization is like, you can quickly understand what's going on here by just looking at this graph where the errors are happening and everything.
Exactly. And for test cases that do not have a specific range, then we will show simply a line with a green dot for successful test and a red dot for test failure.
How about regex and?
Yep. So for that, we will show exactly the same thing with a count of value that we are seeing in our table.
Nice.
Now, if you want to see specific tests for a specific table, you're able to do so by simply accessing that table. So if we're looking for tests that were run against the DIM address table, we can simply go to that table, and from there we have two options. So the first thing that you will see is that you have a summary of test execution at the top, and you're able to see the table summary right here, and then for specific column in the specific column row. If you click on the data quality tab right here, you will see a summary of all of the tests that are associated with your table. Now from there, you're able to select what kind of test you want to see. Do you want to see just the column test or just the table test, and which status of test you want to see? So maybe you want to see only the failed test cases, and in that case, we don't have any more failed cases. And so that will give you an overview at this level. But you're also able.
In that view, do you also get all those graphs and stuff like that you showed?
Yes, exactly. You're also able to see those graphs in that view. And you're able to also access the test cases for a specific column. So if you click on the column and then you are on the profiler view, from there you can click the data quality tab, and then you'll have a similar view but filtered only for the tests that were run for that specific column. And then you can do the exact same thing. You can expand it and then view different date range. And then the last element that we've added. So if we look at the webhook, here we've created a test failure notification that will write to a specific Slack channel. And so as you can see right here, so I have my Slack channel set right here, and then the test failure have been sent to me to that channel. Well, that example is running every 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes, we are getting a notification that we have a test failure in one of our tables. And from there, we're able to take action or whatnot. Yeah, that's it for test cases. Yeah.
Can you click on Slack, that notification, and go to OpenMetadata?
Yeah, exactly. So right now, since I'm running it locally in Docker, it will pass the Docker service. But yes, exactly. If it's set up in a production environment, then clicking on that link will bring you to that test. And yeah, and the next section, sorry, will be the global setting page.
All right, Chirag, Mohit, do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So screen is visible, right?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So in 12.12 release, we are improving the user experience for the settings thingy. So settings is the one of the most important thing for the application to use, like, and manage the stuff over here. So earlier we were have some specific settings allowed from a drop down. So we have changed a bit to a very intuitive page. So now all the settings that you can change throughout the application will be visible in one go over here. And we have updated few of the settings in a bit, like as you can see earlier, we don't have the Slack thingy, right? So the Slack thingy is now available. So earlier you need to do a YAML configuration update to get the Slack event updates. And over here, if you can see, you can just click on the Slack, let's say Slack Webhook.
I think we lost Chirag.
No, just give me a minute. Yeah. Visible?
Yes.
Okay. So along with the webhook thingy, we have give more control over the filters. So let me just show you. So you can just go on a granular details and check, uncheck that whether you want the specific notification on the Slack or not. And you can create multiple Slack channels for the specific kind of notification. So in the end of the data quality demo, you just see that Teddy show you some of the notification he is getting on his Slack channel. So you can control over here, like whether you want to get notification around the test failure or success or about it. So that's that part. So by default, we just kept all enabled, but you can configure it anytime. So for now, I'm not going into the details for the event filters. So just I'm sharing this thing, Slack thing. So yeah. So as you can see, the Slack webhook is created. So let's just see it in action. Like, let me do some changes over some entity and see whether it is available on the Slack or not. So let me just quickly update here. Save. Just we are going to Slack, and yeah. So as you can see, the webhook has just posted in this channel, which the URL I have configured in this demo. So you can see the description is updated as the mention, and this one is the bold thing. So that's on the webhook front.
So quickly chiming in on this side. So the benefit of this is, how do you want to get your alerts? you want to follow all the updates about what's happening in OpenMetadata, you can direct them to a specific channel. You have critical alerts such as test case failures or schema updates, you can redirect them to a specific channel. So that's a benefit of that. And not just Slack, we also added Microsoft Teams integration as well. And Webhook in general, the native Webhook, if you want to get a payload of change event and do some actions, automation, whatnot, that's the benefit of Webhook. So you get a raw event out of that. And if you want to use Slack, you do a parsing and make a Slack specific post, similarly MS Teams.
Okay, thanks, Shasha. So on top of that, these three, like that is in general around the webhook thingy, but in top of that, we have gives more control around the activity feed too. Like you can literally control over the what you want to see in your feeds. Like you don't want to see particular entity or you don't want to see particular action.
Chirag, can you show the activity feed?
Yes.
As an example. Yeah.
Yeah, I will just show that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Sorry. So yeah. So over here you can just manage that what you can you want to see in your activity feed. As you can see, for now my activity feed is configured like I don't want to see the description update, but I can opt in for the owner tags, followers, etc. So let's just quickly verify that if it is working like that. So I will go to the tables, pick any one of them, and I just try to change owner. Let me just assign myself. Okay. So in the activity feeds, it's showing up that owner has changed. But since I haven't opted for the description, if I'm changing anything or I have changed earlier in the Slack demo, so we can't see that part, that particular part in the activity feed. Okay.
So the idea here is our activity feed was tracking every change, and some of those changes were very noisy. People were not seeing benefit out of it. Now your organization can decide what activities you want people to be notified about.
Thanks.
So for point 12, this is a system level configuration. Going forward in point 13 and beyond, we'll make it, this is a user level configuration as well. So you as an individual can choose all of these, what activity you want to kind of subscribe to.
Okay. Yeah. So global settings page, we talked about like the UI improvements and all the things you can see in one place. And now let's check about the notifications that we have added so far. So on the top right corner, you can see a bell icon, and clicking on that, earlier we used to just redirect you to the respective page that contains all the notification. So now we have improved it to just pop over which contains the top most notification for you, the recent one basically. And we have categorized them in two sections, like is it a task notification or is it a mention? So we can quickly check, like let me create a task and see if it is working fine. So I will go to there. I will request for the description. I will just for now type my name and just submit. Okay. So in the notification section, the task notification is populated along with the view all option. So let's say if you have more than 5 notifications, you can just always click on the view all thingy and you will able to see all the notification for you. There is a mention section. So if anyone mentioned you in some conversation, then you will get a notification over here. And similarly, the view all button will take you to the mention page. So over here, activity and mention. So over here, you will find all the notification, but we have just kept a small drop down to easy access for it. So this is how notification has changed in the open metadata so far. So here is the screenshot of the same thing. And yeah, in case you have enabled the browser notifications, so you will get that too, just like mentioned in the screenshot. So we have talked about the webhooks like improvements and MSTM integration. So that is much better now rather than what we have from the YAML configuration. So you don't need to again like rerun the server after the configuration change. You can just go to the settings and do the things that you need. Yeah, we have talked about all this, and yeah, there is one change that is we have heard from the community that they are needing. So earlier what we had is like for custom properties we were supporting only the table entities, but now we have extended it to the all other entities. So as you can see, yeah, over here. So for table, topic, dashboard, all of the entities, now you can create a custom property and use it in the respective entities. So Harsha, would you like to add anything?
No, and that covers this part of the demo. Now we move on to SAML support. OpenMetadata from the very beginning supporting a lot of SSO integrations. SSO integration is mainly through the O.12.0, and we had a lot of community feedback. They wanted to have support through SAML as well. So coming into the point, well, we're going to support SAML for Google, Azure.
Yeah,
So
do you want to show the slides?
Oh, sorry. I think Mohit, you're going to do that. Quickly share the screen.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Can you do slideshow?
Yeah, just a second. Okay. Okay, you can see. I hope you can see.
No, we're not see. Yeah, slide. Yeah, better.
Okay. So as Harsha was talking about, we already support a couple of SSOs that we are working with. Based on community feedback, we are also working on the SAML support. A lot of organizations already have the IDP setup that they normally use when they are trying to, log into different service providers, for example. So in our case, OpenMetadata is a service provider which currently work with the SSOs, but with this functionality, we'll be able to use the existing IDPs that are associated with the organization to provide a seamless login experience to OpenMetadata as well. So before getting into the demo, I'll just give you a brief about what SAML is and how it works.
So we have 7 minutes, 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So we may have to do this quickly.
Yeah, so SAML is basically an XML-based open metadata, open standard for transferring the identity data between two parties, that is IDP and the service provider. Service provider in our case is open metadata. IDP can be anyone, AWS or Azure Active Directory, some such. So what happens is users tries to log into open metadata. They are redirected to the service provider who will authenticate the user. Then again, the service provider and IDP has a trusted relationship. After the authentication, it transfers some user info to our open metadata, which we use to build a JWT token and provide that to the UI, which is used for communication purposes. So that is how we are trying to set up the SAML. So benefits is obviously improved user experience, increased security, and easier management for service provider for user information. Because we are actually not maintaining any info. Everything is handled by the IDP itself. Yeah, so this I'll skip. I'll just jump onto the demo. So if you see in OpenMetadata YAML, what we have is, I'll quickly go over, right? So this is the authentication configuration. Earlier, for other authentication providers, we used to select Okta or as such. For SAML, we have SAML. Then we also have SAML configuration, which will be required for the IDP and the SP. SP in our case is the open metadata. So both of these have one entity ID, which is specific to the IDP. And also entity basically determines what your entity is. For IDP as well, we will have some entity ID, which we can get as part of metadata XML that we get on the setup. Okay, I'll show you for AWS. So this is the IAM Identity Center for AWS, where I have created a basic SSO and assigned some users to it. So these are the users that I've created and assigned them to allow access to this particular application. So under that, we have, So basically, when we are trying to set up SAML, so this is the application that I created. There are 4 things which are necessary. Essentially, there are 3 things, but some support for 2. That is the sign out URL. So there is this identity information, then the sign in URL, and the sign out URL, and the issuer URL. Issuer is the one who is providing us user information. Also, you get this metadata file, which you can download. Every IDP has this. So if you see at this XML, we have this entity ID. So this entity ID, this single logout URL and single sign-on service and the name ID format that it requires, it needs to be populated as part of our open metadata configuration. So similar settings you'll see we have populated here. I've taken all the settings from the XML, or you can take it from the UI as well. Populate it out here. And for the SP, so you have entity ID. Entity ID I've kept the same as assertion consumer URL, which is ACS. So what happens is when IDP is actually sending out the user information, that verification is done at the open metadata side as well. So ACS is the endpoint that receives that user information, validates it, and provides a silent callback to the UI, which then use that JWT token as part of response, right? All right. So this is related to the configuration. We'll start up the server. Okay. Okay, I'm already logged in. I'll log out. So with SAML, you'll get this sign in with SAML SSO. And once you click it, you will be routed to this AWS and you are silently logged in. Wait, I'll do one more thing. This was a bit quicker. So when you do sign in with SAML, you will be taken back to the login URL of the authentication provider. In this case, this is going to be AWS. So I'm going to quickly log the user in, and once you log in with the IDP, you see you are routed back to this. So this is with the AWS SSO. I'm quickly going to show out for the Azure as well.
Mohit, let's keep that. Yeah. I think.
Yeah.
I hope
in the interest of time, we have 1 more minute. But yeah. Finish up the PPT though.
Okay. So if you see, essentially in the SAML request, we are actually sending the ID issue instant assertion consumer URL. That is where we are actually receiving the response where we authenticate the user, and the issuer, which is the entity ID of our SAML provider. Yeah. So I guess that is all.
We should make these slides available for people for reference.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
So quickly, I think in the interest of time, we'll jump a few things. Go to the Lineage and new connectors thingy. So in this case, we are adding 4 new connector, Dagster. It's a workflow orchestrator. You can now connect to Dagster from within the UI and get metadata. 5tran, one of the popular ETL tooling that will help you, and Apache NiFi and Red Panda. And there are several implements went into lineage and usage, coverage-wise, and how we are performing in terms of extracting the lineage and everything else. So apart from that, finally, Pluggable secret store. Just on the heels of what we did in SAML, we right now have 8 SSOs covered. Pretty much any SSO that is there being used in industry is supported by OpenMetadata, both OAuth as well as now with the 12.0 SAML. Now, what is Pluggable secret store? I'm going to do a rough summary here. So when you're going to the open metadata, you want to extract the metadata from your data stores or Airflow, whatnot. So you go to UI and create a service, input the service connection details, right? So when I go here quickly, add new service. So all of this, we are asking like sensitive information, username and password. So till point 11, what we used to do is we used to apply finite key encryption. So they are encrypted into the database and only decrypted when ingestion needs for it. So with point 12, we are actually taking all of this responsibility out of OpenMetadata. You can still use the older way of doing it, but with point 12, you can actually delegate all the sensitive information storage to a secret store or a vault. For this point 12, we are shipping two integrations. One is AWS Secret Store and AWS Session Store. Depending on cost, you can choose one or the other. The benefit of that is none of this information gets stored in OpenMetadata. They get delegated to AWS. It's stored. You will get all the benefits of AWS Secret Store or any vault mechanism, right? When ingestion tries to run this workflow, it also talks to AWS. So OpenMetadata never involved in the transfer of sensitive information at all. So you're actually delegating calls to the AWS Secret Store using the wire encryption there itself, getting stored in a much more secretive fashion, and none of the credentials are stored on the OpenMetadata. So that's a huge benefit. I think we had a lot of questions about community, how we implement this. Now, if you already have AWS, if you're using a Kubernetes, for example, we will ship that in point 13. So that's a great benefit for the community and how we're storing the metadata on this side. So that's kind of semi-concludes. As you can see from our very beginning, we have shipped a lot of features. So we couldn't have enough time to kind of demo all of those things. So we're rushing it together. But I want to kind of shout out to the community. We have contributors coming in. If you're interested in contributing to OpenMetadata and want to find what your good first issues, go to the GitHub and you can search for a good first issue. We have a bunch of stuff. Again, if you're interested in adding a feature, talk to us. We are happy to help through the Slack or schedule some time with you. And we're really thankful for all the contributors to make point 12 happen. And also, code is not the only way that you can contribute. You can give us feedback, a lot of feedback coming from a lot of community members. We really value that. And one of the reasons, with point 12, we're calling this as a feature release. So if you are in production, do not directly upgrade to the production. Use it in your staging, run it, test it, give us a feedback, give us a chance to kind of release a point 1 release. We are tentatively scheduling it to be September 21st for point 1 release, 12.1. But 12.4, all the artifacts and everything will be available tomorrow morning. We'll leave a notice in the Slack channel. You can run, through the Docker or upgrade your, AWS instances or whatnot. Give us a run and give us a feedback. We're looking forward to it. Hopefully, all the features that we demoed is excited you. It definitely excites us to get the point 12 out. Super thrilled and thankful for all the hard work done by the team and the community. Can't wait to get this out tomorrow morning. Thanks, everyone. I know we ran a bit beyond, but thanks for your patience and see you in the next community meeting. We'll keep the updates coming in about this release. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
By the way, Peter, for Green Plum, I think we can have a chat in the Slack. We are excited to get you working on that connector contribution.
Definitely, Peter. I'll reach out to you on the Slack. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.